A career spanning nearly 6 decades, he's won 4 BAFTAs, 4 British Comedy Awards and 7 National Television Awards, and was even knighted in 2005 for his services to acting and comedy.
He looks so smart there. However, his journey to this point has been just as chaotic as a drive in Del Boy's three-wheeler. And his latest memoir, this time next year, A Life of Positive Thinking, tells us all about it.
We are thrilled to have him back on the show. Welcome, Sir David Jason. Lovely to see you, David. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning.
Thank you for inviting me, and I will look forward to it.
6 decades, David. Does that seem surreal to you now when you think back on it?
Yes, it does, and I don't like to think about it, really.
Sorry about him.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that all of us have grown up with you as a mainstay on our dramas and TVs and comedies, and you have been a big part of all of our lives. It's an extraordinary thing that you've put down in your book about how you got to where we know you now as well.
Yeah, I mean, what happened was with the book, because I had written about my journey through my acting career, through life, I suppose. But what happened was that I thought I'd covered everything, and the people who handle the book asked me if I'd make another one, I'd write another one. So I thought, maybe I've sort of said everything. There's nothing left to say. I mean, but then what happened was, with the catalyst was this. I was rummaging through loads of old paperwork and stuff that I'd got at home, and I came across in a drawer, right at the back of the drawer, was a green book that someone had given me or I'd acquired. And what it was a book from the BBC, and it was dated 1947. And it was perfect condition. It was brilliant. And I thought, I don't remember this. And I started to open it. And what it was a rule book for people who make programmes for the BBC of what you're not allowed to say. And if you read this book, which I did mention in the book, you wouldn't be able to speak
at all.
Because there's religion. You can't say anything about religion. Homosexuality. You can't say anything like that. You can't say things that are, suggestive.
Yes.
And one of the things that it said is, with many of these examples, was, for example, you're not allowed to say winter draws on. The reference being ladies' underwear.
Oh, drawers?
Yes.
Draw? Yes. Goodness me.
Yeah, so winter draws on was the one that got me. And I thought, if you put any of that by today's standards, you wouldn't be able to do anything because it's so restrictive. But the interesting thing about it was that what fired the whole thing. I started to do research, and I found old books and diaries and things that, like, are you being served? Was I an Are You Being Served? No, but I remember going to see it. So it opened the doors that had remained closed for a long time.
Yeah. One of the doors that I liked that was opened, because I liked the audiobook as well, I like to hear you tell me the story as I'm listening. And what struck me is how much the affection that you had for Ronnie Barker. To me, that really stood out in the book. And just what affection you had for him, both in a way of he was a comedy great, one of the greatest of our time, but also just as a chap and a mentor, and what a nice man he was.
Yeah, I think you're right. And that was one of the things that rubbed off on me.
Yeah.
That he became a very good friend, or a close friend. We really did. But what I learned from Ronnie, which is a piece of information that I would like to impart onto famous people like yourselves, take note.
OK.
And what it was, here was this genius of a writer-performer. And every time I worked with him, he would always amaze me if I had a tagline in the series, like Open All Hours or whatever. I'd have this tagline, which was the end of the joke, and I'd go, that's it, I've got my own tagline. and he's got a laugh. Brilliant. Then he'd come along and top it. So the camera would come back to him and he would top my top. So it began to sort of irritate a little bit, but that's how brilliant he was. But one of the things that impressed me the most was how genuine as a real person he was, how generous. So when you were working with him, for example, a quick example would be that I was not being favoured very much, if you like, in 1 or 2 episodes of Open All Hours. And he wrote a piece, a very funny piece, with me getting some legs.
The legs.
That one, the legs one, yes, which we won't go into here.
It was so funny, though, hearing you tell the story.
But it was, he wrote that for me.
Yeah.
Because I was getting a little bit, you know, all I was doing was feeding Ronnie and not getting very many laughs of my own, something that Ronnie and I discussed. So the next thing I know, he'd written this scene for me. Now, that generosity reflected itself in his attitude to the business. So in other words, that not only was he a nice and lovely person to work with, he was generous to all his crew. So cameras and makeup, wardrobe.
The whole production.
Yeah.
So what that meant was, and something I learned from him, was that they are all part of this business of creating humour for us at home to enjoy. And so Ronnie impressed upon me and made me aware of the fact that you're only the head of the team behind you, but you need all that team behind you to create the humour that you're going to deliver to your television
I don't know
screen.
if we create humour, but we've definitely got a great team.
We definitely have a fabulous team, and that's the point.
But that's the point. Though whatever position you're in, you enjoy it, but help to spread that amongst your crew, right? And the reason that has imprinted itself in my mind ever since was that I do hear stories, no names, no background, of certain members of our, you know, our entertainment industry who are very selfish and rude. They can be selfish, rude, rather to the point of being vulgar. In other words, they don't respect the team. They say that, oh, it's me, I'm famous. Do you mind? You stay there, you two, and I'll have my close-ups here. Don't cut to them.
Please do cut to him. Please do.
It's
Keep it on him.
One, yes. So,
but there is a reason, though, you've been able to write this book and you've been in 6 decades, because clearly that was a huge influence on you and you have gone on to work with everybody like that, whatever it is. I need to ask about Only Fools and Horses, if I may, Dave, which, of course, was such a hugely important series for all of us growing up, but you as well. Del Boy, as a character, I mean, it's really interesting in the book because you talk about the fact that as wonderful as he was to play and what an important role, it sort of haunted you a little bit because very often you couldn't really get away from him as well.
No, I suppose that's the... I was trying to find the right word. I was going to say curse, but it's not. It's not a curse. But because of its success, it was, well, little did we know how successful it became. It was going to become. But what it did was that this shadow of that character that I played 40 years ago now, oh, excuse me, but it's always there. Now, I've changed physically, facially, an awful lot since I did that. Not quite too much. You probably know.
Chin.
Yes, I still got a chin. Thank you, miss. But what it done, I don't look like that anymore. But what it does is on the television, and people identify with that character, not me, but also everywhere I go, I'm introduced as David Chase. Oh, David Chase, rings a bell. Yes, the character. Oh, Del Boy. So it sparks that off in everybody's memory. So I have to try and get hold of him and say, get down, sit there, will you? You're always behind me on my back. So it's a cross that I have to bear, but it's a lovely one because I mean, I'm amazed at how much it's influenced people. But mainly how much it's entertained people.
Oh, exactly that. And it still lives on now. The musical is sensational. You've not seen the musical? Have you seen any football musical?
No, but I understand that I'm probably going to see the new one.
Are you going to go in disguise, though? You'd cause chaos.
I know. The answer to that is I don't know yet. but when it first opened in the West End, I was invited to the first night.
Yeah, Paul.
And I thought about it and I thought, I can't really go because the huge amount of crowds that if they knew I was there and I was the original character, nobody'd be looking at the stage. They'd all be going, can I have a selfie? Can I have an autograph? But the show's started now. No, but I'd like to have it. So,
do you know what I like the idea, though, David? If you sneak in at some point, you get to watch it, and then at the end, a bit like the Phantom from the Phantom of the Opera, you stand up in a box.
Yeah.
And as they're taking the curtain call, you just wave at the crowd.
Yeah, with the jacket.
I like it.
The
With the
jacket,
sheepskin
yeah,
jacket.
that you
hey,
took.
that's a good idea.
Right?
And I never thought of that.
Let's
do it.
Wait for the curtain to go up.
And then
come in at the back.
Yeah.
In the
and then
box.
Be there.
Do it.
Exactly, be in a box.
Yes.
We'll talk to Paul Whitehouse.
Oh, I want tickets to that show.
Yes,
Yeah,
we
then
just want
me.
to be there.
Yeah, let's do it. A Life of Positive Thinking by David Jason is...
This time next year.
Yeah.
Still lovely jubbly. That's what it is, David.
Well, we hope so, because there are little bits in there that I said that nobody I've not revealed before. But the one that's intrigued me, that set it all alight, if you like, was that
little diary.
That book.
Amazing.
The instructions to all producers, writers, actors, and everybody were handed this book, little book, tiny booklet.
As a guide.
The guide to
Amazing what
how
triggers,
to do it.
what the catalysts are.
Thank you for joining us, David.
Coming into
So
the
lovely to
studio.
see you.
Thank you.
Bless you.
Thank you for
up...
visiting our This Morning YouTube channel. We upload new content every day, so go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out, and we'll see you in the morning.